Hello everybody, UnderCiv here, and in this video we're going to be doing a early game guide video for Sid Meier's Civilization 6 multiplayer. Emphasis guys on multiplayer. This is going to be a multiplayer focused guide only, no single player. Strategies are a lot different. We use various mods that I'm going to be using in this guide. I won't get too much into it now, but better balanced starts, better balanced game, and multiplayer helper. They balance the game and spawn significantly for multiplayer, and they're a really good addition to the game. You can find links for them in the description below. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about this guide is basically a very safe, very safe opener for newer players of Civ 6 in multiplayer. We're going to be doing things like going for strategic resources, getting our classical units up, a little brief discussion on how to settle the capital city, and there's going to be no sort of religious openers or campers slash commercial openers. This is going to be a standard I don't want to die opener. So this is aimed at newer players. You might learn a thing or two if you are an experienced player, but this is going to be a new player guide. I will just quickly run through the options that we use in multiplayer games. So we do use the competitive dynamic turn timer. We're on online speed. We often use Pangea. Map size always goes with the number of players, so large map for 10 players, for example. Abundant resources, abundant strategics, standard wonders, standard city states, everything else standard except for world age is always new, and ridges is sometimes classic. That's about it really. There's some further options here just to avoid exploits and that sort of thing, but these are your standard options. And I will be playing Sweden in this guide as well, just because it's a like a sort of no early game bonus civ, so it's going to be helpful to discuss like early game stuff without getting a head start, like Rome gets a monument, for example, so we don't want any of that business. Anyway, that's enough babbling, guys. Let's get into it. Please subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Twitch. Yeah, I stream Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays with the odd extra day. You can find the links for those in the description. And yeah, cheers for watching this, and let's jump straight into it. Okay, so we've loaded into the game and we're greeted with a few things. We've got our starting settler, our starting warrior, and our starting location. Turn 1 is an unlimited turn. It's not affected by the turn timer, so you do have a couple of minutes to think about what you want to do, where you want to settle, that sort of thing. So do take advantage of that, but don't take too long, otherwise the other players are going to get a bit annoyed. So what's the goal of turn 1? Basically, we want to decide where we're going to put our capital city and try and get a bit of information, scouting information with our warrior. Sounds simple enough, but it's actually quite complicated where you want to settle your capital city. So complicated, in fact, that I've done a separate video on that, where you can find the link for that in the description below. Just like so many little things can greatly affect the snowball in the game, which I'll briefly touch on in a second. And whilst we're on that subject, there is going to be a few things in this guide video that do require a separate video, just so I don't drag this video on. Another one of those things is going to be era score and golden ages. Okay, so we want to settle our capital city, and the base yield of any city is going to be 2 food, 1 production. And I just want to quickly say that I'm going to be saying things a lot this guide, like things like 2-2, 2-1, 3-2. Basically what I mean is the yield of the tile that I'm talking about. And it always goes food, production, and then any sort of bonus extras that you can get from that. So like gold, faith, culture. So for example, this is a 1-1 because it's 1 food, 1 production. This is a 1-2, this is a 3-2, and so on. 2-2 is going to be the magic number on that note, because it's a really nice balance in the early game between food and production. If you're working too much production, you're not going to be growing enough, and if you're working too much food, you're not going to be producing things enough. So 2-2 is the magic number. You want to aim to settle towards 2-2s or better, and settle around those tiles so you don't have to do much tile buying. Okay, so 2-1 base on the city centre. You can get that better depending on the tile that you settle on. If that tile has better than 2-1, these effects don't stack. So, for example, the city centre base is 2-1. That doesn't mean if I settle on here, I'm going to get an extra 2 food and an extra production to make it 4-2. It's just going to be still 2-1. Some things stay and some things get removed when you settle a city. Things that get removed are removable features. Rainforest, woods, and marsh are the 3 main ones. Bonus resources stay, so things like bananas, deer, maize. Luxuries always also stay, so things like ivory. And also, you don't need the tech requirement to unlock the luxury resource if you settle on it. So, for example, here, if I settled on the ivory, I'd be I've got the ivory amenity from turn 1, even though I don't have animal husbandry. Strategics don't go away either, but obviously you need to be able to see them to be working them, if that makes sense. Okay, so with that briefly covered, where do we want to settle? Okay, we've got a few options here. First things first, we've got this is the sort of simplest tile to explain. 2-1 base. Is one food 2 production better than that? Yes, because 2 production is better than 1. So we're going to keep that extra production. And obviously the city centre is always base 2 food. So that's going to go up to 2 food. So this is going to be a 2-2 settle. 2 food, 2 production. We've also got this 2-2 tile here, this Plains Hill. It does have a rainforest on it. If you remove the rainforest, which grants 1 food, we're left with 1 food, 2 production. So that's the same as this tile. Now, you guys are probably thinking, okay, the ivory settle looks best because you mentioned about the amenity being unlocked. But there is one major problem with settling on this ivory. Okay, so we'll talk about the tile first. It's got a woods on it that gets removed, so that brings it down to 1 food, 2 production, 1 gold. So if we settle on that, it's going to be 2 food, 2 production, 1 gold. And we unlock the ivory, which is nice. But big problem is it's completely surrounded by 1 food, 1 production tiles. So when you found your city, you can have 1 citizen to work a tile. We don't want to be working all this, which makes us want to probably go towards this 2-2 tile here. The bananas is also an option. Because as we mentioned, the bananas stay. So we keep the extra food that bananas gives us, but the rainforest goes away, leaving us with 2 food, 2 production. But because the city centre, hope you guys are keeping up here, because the city centre gives 2 food, it's kind of pointless settling there anyway, because we're just going to be 2 food, 2 production again. So here makes the most sense because we can work a 3 food, 2 production tile turn 1, which is very nice. But before we settle, we do want to get some information with this warrior. Now, this is a little minor thing, but I see a lot of players doing that, and it's just right clicking wherever just to sort of move the warrior. But you want to try and get as much information with this warrior as you can turn 1. You could find a wonder, you could find a goody hut, tribal village, or you could find a barb camp and head towards there. In this sense, we can see there's a river here, which we want to scout for a potential expansion, second city, straight away, which is really nice. We could also move down here or here. This doesn't really give us much information, and going in any other direction is only going to give us, well, no information because the settler can already see those tiles. So try and get as much information with the warrior as you can, which we've done here. We've basically found our potentially our first expand, because again we've got that really nice 2-2 base working a 2-2 tile. So that's the end of turn 1. We'll move over there and we'll hit next turn. Happy days. Right, moving on to turn 2. Now, you will have noticed that I am settling on turn 2 here, which people argue is a waste of time. But because we've moved up to a 2 production base tile, that's really nice. You don't want to waste more than 2 turns settling though. I'd only settle turn 3 if I'm moving towards a really nice wonder, or my start is completely garbage and I just have to move. Like if I spawned, I don't know, completely surrounded by one food, one production tiles. So yeah, try and settle one turn 1 or 2. There's more going to be more on that in the how to settle video. Okay, so turn 2. Okay, so we've got a few things to do this turn. We need to figure out what we want to do with our warrior, what tech we want to research, and what civic we want to research. So the aim of the warrior is to a few things really. We want to find any potential barb camps nearby to deal with that threat as quick as possible. We want to find potential expansion, but we don't want to just send it off in one direction off to Narnia. We want to sort of keep it around the cap. So doing like a circle around the cap is really ideal with the warrior. Just to keep it nearby to protect any settlers, protect any traders, like your tiles, that sort of thing, because people will try and steal your stuff. When you do escort your settler, try not to do it with a scout or a slinger, because they are very, very vulnerable, especially to other warriors or unique warriors like the Aztec warrior or the Babylon unique unit. So do bear that in mind. Try and escort with your starting warrior. Don't for this if you're a newer player, do not send out settlers naked. I'd even argue if you've got like a lot of vision and you're like certain that you're not going to lose, that you never know where a scout or a warrior is going to appear from. So just always escort your settlers. Okay, so we want to get maximum again vision with this warrior. We're just going to move up to the hill here. Standing on a hill does give you more line of sight than standing on a flat tile. So we found a goodie hat. So what we're probably going to do is grab this goodie hat and then reveal this fog of war here. Okay, and now we need to move on to what we want to build. Now the standard opener I use and highly recommend is 2 scouts into settler. The reason we do 2 scouts is to find any really valuable information that's nearby. They've got more movement than a warrior as well. They've got the 3 movement instead of the 2, which makes them very nice. So we can find things like goodie huts, city-states, especially first meets, other civilizations, more land to settle. And 2 is better than 1 because you're going to find more of those things, which is going to make getting a golden age easier. So we've got that done then. We're doing 2 scouts into a settler, and now we need to choose our research. So like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a sort of new player standard opener, very safe opener, nothing too gambly. So we won't be doing things like going for religion or rushing for campuses, that sort of thing. The first thing we want to focus on here is unlocking our strategic resources so we can build a classical unit to get our city strength up. So we've got one of 2 options here for a classical unit. That's horsemen and swordsmen, and to be able to build them we need horses or iron, depending on what you want to build. Horses are revealed at animal husbandry and iron is revealed at bronze working. So most of the time the safer option is to go animal husbandry here, because you do unlock the horses quicker, which means you can improve them quicker, which means you're going to have more stockpiled ready to build a horseman, because they do require 10 horses to build them. And the iron comes a little bit later on, so that's going to be, you're not going to have 10 iron as fast as 10 horses. But it does go a little bit further than that, because the strategic resources can only spawn on particular tiles. You can find out using the Civvipedia, just type in horses. Here we go, unlocked by animal husbandry. Placement, grassland and plains. Now, it goes a little bit further than that, because if we look here, if we look at plains, for example, we've got all these plains here, but it doesn't, the Civvipedia doesn't explain that they can't spawn on a tile that already has a feature on, a bonus resource on, or a luxury on, or is a floodplain, or has like a non-removable feature on. Floodplains are the more common one. So, for example, this is a plains tile, but because it's got woods on it, they can't spawn there. Same with the deer, same with the ivories. Horses also can't spawn on hills, so that leaves us with basically these naked grassland and naked plains tiles that are not floodplains like this tile. You can use the tooltip when you hover over to see that these are floodplains. So horses can spawn here, but they can't spawn there. So how many tiles do we have that's possibly going to be horses? Quite a lot, to be honest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 within a couple of tiles of our cap. Iron, on the other hand, spawns on hills. We can look in the Civlopedia, look up iron. Desert hills, grassland hills, plains hills, and tundra hills. Again, they can't have a feature on though. Do bear that in mind. So iron can spawn here, for example, because this is a plains hill, but not here because this is a plains hill with woods on. So, what do you want to go here? Obvious choice here is going to be horses, because there's so many more tiles, and like I mentioned, they come so much earlier. So that's that sorted. Civic, we don't have to worry about yet because there's only one choice, Code of Laws. So we'll head towards that next turn. And now we're going to talk about a nice little trick that you can use throughout the game, really, and that's the settler lens. As you can see here, I've pushed 4 on the keyboard. You can also click this lens icon here and then settler. And we can get a bit of information with this because, as you can see here, the red too close to city or block terrain means we can't settle on these tiles. And you can use that to your advantage because, say for example, there was a city state or a player here and this was 3 tiles away. This tile would be red, and that would give us information that there's something there, because even though we haven't revealed it, we can see that it's red. So there's going to be something there. I'll come back to that when we do actually find something. Let's get some vision with the warrior. We'll grab that goodie hut next turn. Another thing you want to do is check what tiles you're working, lock in the tiles that you want to work, because the game is really bad for auto assigning tiles when they grow. The game loves to work gold tiles for some reason, so I'll keep an eye on that. Okay, next turn. Our scout's coming out next turn. Experience, that's not great. We use that 4 on the lens. Now this is a red tile, but that's just because it's a lake and you can't settle inside a lake. Okay, right, our scout's finishing. Where do we want to go with our scout? We've got 2 options here, really. Well, 3. We could either go towards this way, see what's on this river system here, which is going to give us information on potential cities. We can also go this way, which gives us a maximum movement, because if we go here, it's going to take a bit longer to get there because of all the rivers and the terrain blocking our movement. And we can also go this way. I'm going to go down here just because there's more movement down there. And there we go. I was about to say, in case we could find any goodie huts, so we found something nice. Let's build our second scout as well, get that done. And with the warrior now, I'm just gonna think about now where you want to settle this, where you're going to move this next scout. Civilization is all about thinking in the future. You don't want to be playing a reactive gameplay style. For example, you don't want to rush out units just because someone's put units on your borders. It's already too late then. You need to be keeping an eye on military strength of your neighbours. You need to be thinking 3, 4, 5 turns ahead what your game plan is, what you want to do, what you want to go towards. Don't try not to sort of just focus on the here and now. And on that note, we need to think about where we're going to go with this scout. I'm thinking up here. So that means that this warrior is going to finish doing that nice little circle around the cap. So we're going to go this way with him. Next turn, we're getting our horses coming up pretty soon. Let's keep scouting with you. Keep eye on that settler lens that we spoke about. Grab that goodie hut. We can see here now with the settler lens there's fresh water here. So we know that's going to be a river or lake. And there we go, it's a river. Right, here we go. And this is why we need to keep an eye on citizens, because the game has decided we want to work this 1-3-1 tile instead of the 2-2, which is nice for the production, but if we look here, we're growing in 4 turns, which isn't ideal, so we want to switch to the 2-2 and lock that in. Okay, animal husbandry is unlocked, so we can see where our horses are now. We've got one here and one here towards the city that we're expanding towards, so that's nice. And we've also finished our second scout. We're going to sand that up there like we said. Now with this information we can decide what we're going next on the tech tree. I forgot to mention earlier, horses versus swordsmen, what's best. For the sake of simplicity, don't really worry about it. Horses are slightly better at attack, swordsmen are slightly better at defending. Horses are better at attack because they got extra movement, swords are better defending because of their promotions. But we've gone animal husbandry this game, so we don't need to worry too much about swords. We've got 2 tiles to improve, so we're going to go straight towards horseback riding. We don't want to do any sort of campus or commercial hub greedy plays here. We just want to focus on keeping ourselves alive, deter any scary people from attacking us and whatnot. Okay, so what do we need on the way there? We need to kill a unit with a slinger, and we need to build a pasture. Don't worry about doing the archery boost. You can buy a slinger if you've got a barb camp nearby to deal with that. If you can do it really quick, that before you within like the 4 turns, that's fair enough. But majority of the time, you're not going to be able to do that. So don't worry about that. Eureka. And to be honest, on that subject of Eurekas, there's a lot of Eurekas in the early game that are very difficult to do that I wouldn't worry about. If we were going straight towards iron working here, bronze working, kill 3 barbarians, we probably wouldn't gamble that. As you get better and more experienced at the game, you can take these gambles and risks if you know that you can get the Eureka within a acceptable time frame without delaying your defense because you know that someone isn't going to push you, etc. But if you're a newer player, I just recommend not doing the slinger boost. Obviously, we're going to be doing the boost build a pasture because we need to start working those horses. Okay, so Barb Camp's founders, as we mentioned earlier, we're doing a little circle around the cap. This is exactly why, to keep the cap safe from Barb, so we'll go straight towards that now. We'll do some extra scouting with this guy. Okay, so the plan was double scout into settler, which we're going to stick with. We could go a build here to get these horses online quicker, but I don't think it's worth delaying the settler for. You can do a very early builder, but only if your tiles are super bad and you really need them. In this case, we don't have that problem. We're working a 3-2. We're working a 2-2 here. We've got the 1-3 next if we want that. So yeah, we're just going to stick with the plan here on to next turn. We'll grab this goodie hut quickly. Oh, there we go. We've met somebody. Grab that before she does. We'll keep scouting this guy here. Nothing much to talk about this turn. Next turn we go. And we are unlocking a Civic now. Okay, so I think this is going to be the last thing that I'm going to talk about in this video. And that's going to be, we've got 2 Civic options here really. Because we need to basically go towards political philosophy. And there's 2 ways we can do that. One is through craftsman and one through foreign trade. And the best way I like to describe these is the sort of the warry route and the sim route. This is the war route because it unlocks Agogi, which gives you 50% production towards ancient and classical era melee, anti-cav and ranger units. That leads into state workforce, which unlocks these cards, which goes into political philosophy. Now you want to aim towards state workforce or early empire first to unlock these governor titles, which we'll talk about when we get there. So a lot of the time I like to go foreign trade first into early empire, so that's fine, we'll stick with that. That's going to give us access to 2 gold from all trade routes, 100% production towards ancient and classical era naval units, which we're not worried about. The main reason we go for this one is to be able to build a trader. So we'll go towards there. We've also got policies, always put discipline in. Don't risk the scout card, especially after the scouting experience got nerfed a while back. Put the 10 unit combat strength and fighting barbs. Scouts can fortify and defend against anything but range units with that card in the early game. For your yellow slot, God King, most of the time, you need 12 faith or a Pantheon, and that's going to get you there a lot quicker. Okay, so let's scout with you. Nothing much to see there. We can see loyalty here, so it means that Indonesia's here. I'm trying to get an example of the red on the lens, but it isn't coming up. Okay, so we've got our settler finishing in 2 turns. This has been going on for about 25-ish, 30 minutes now, so I think I'm going to leave it there for the first one. We're going to be talking about loads more in the second video, so stay tuned for that one. Cheers for watching, guys. Really hope you enjoy this new and improved early game guide video. Hope it's better than the first one. I feel a bit more confident with the YouTube now. Cheers for watching. Cheers for all the support. Come and watch me on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, give us a follow on Twitch, all that good stuff, and see you in the next one.